Hi. So, a lot of us look for, software engineers. We are working on various IT positions, technical positions, and very often but not, I get faced with this question: what is it that we should look for in a software engineer? Because we obviously don't take a technical round of interview. Or is just a software engineer's technical ability the only parameter of judging a person? Well, the answer to that is no. While 70% of the decision while hiring an IT professional is on the basis of their competency in technology, there is also close to 30 to 40% and growing relevance to these soft skills of a particular engineer. Now, I have actually come up with five parameters which I'd like to judge in a software engineer. The first being adaptability, second being a person who is a team player, third, approachability, fourth, a person who's curious, and fifth, a person who takes ownership. I repeat the five traits that I look for in a software engineer: adaptable person, someone who's a team player, approachability, someone who's curious, and someone who takes ownership. Now, most of the times, it's very difficult to understand the software engineer's side of the story when it comes to these five aspects. So I've come up with questions which will help you understand, how you could judge a person on these five traits, and I'm giving you certain tips in terms of what to listen for. The first thing is, the first trait I'm looking for is adaptability. So the question I'd like to ask is, in what kind of an environment do you do your best work? I'll repeat the question: in what kind of an environment do you do your best work? Now, what is it that you're listening for? Look for candidates whose answers show a real understanding of the demand of the role you are hiring for. So, if he or she is giving you a very vague, response in terms of what the role demands for, that person is not the right candidate for you. Obviously, as most of you understand, that a software engineer's person's job requires deadlines, requires project management, requires stress, sometimes requires going on-site projects. It's not a very easy job, and if he or she is giving you answers such as, I prefer a non-stressful environment, where I have freedom to do the work, and bring creative expertise, perhaps that's not the right candidate for you, because that's not what the software engineer's job entails you to do. Um, you want the answer to be realistic, but also demonstrate the awareness to the expectations of your specific organization. So most IT companies are pretty similar, but there are, of course, some things that are different between companies. But the idea is, you want a candidate to be realistic in the way he or she answers this question, and they should be aware about what this role demands in this particular organization, and it should not be very vague. It should be aligned to what this role is going to be demanding. So here we're not looking at two different answers, or we're not looking at something very innovative in terms of an answer. We need someone to give an answer which is more acceptable in nature. So that is something that you want to look out for in the first thing of a software engineer when you're judging the adaptability. The second thing is a team player. Now, a team player is very, very important in today's industry. As you can understand, that even in the software industry, which was initially working quite a bit in terms of silos, now they're working as teams and completing projects together. So, what question do you need to ask when you're looking for a team player? What distinguishes a great software engineer from a good one? I repeat, the question is, what distinguishes a great software engineer from a good one? Do you feel you have these qualities? Do you feel you have these qualities? Now, what to listen for? This question can provide insight into the thought process of the candidate. Look for an answer that shows initiative and communication skills. These traits are often overlooked by someone who is looking to hire an engineer. This particular answer also shows the humility of the candidate since they are also willing to ask for help. Again, I'm repeating, you need a candidate who's showing initiative, who's showing that they have the communication skills, because these are particular skills that very few people are judging them by, but it is a requirement of an engineer. You need a person to be humble, right? And if they get stuck up, you need to know that they are willing to ask for help. A candidate who understands that there is a difference between being pragmatic and being a perfectionist will be beneficial to your organization. Many engineers, they try to achieve perfection in whatever they do. Well, that's good enough, right? I understand that's a good trait to have, but the idea is to also be pragmatic and to be aware about what needs to be delivered by when, and deliver it that by that point of time, instead of just striving for perfectionism all the time, right? So this is something that I want you to look for when you're judging that person is a team player or no. Remember, these are very different ways of judging the team player's ability than what we have earlier discussed. The third aspect is the approachability. Describe a situation where you had a positive effect on someone. What did you do? How did the other person react? I repeat the question. Describe a situation where you had a positive effect on someone. What did you do? How did the other person react? What is it that you're listening for? Being approachable is essential in the role of a software engineer. Given the software engineer must be approachable. You'll want someone who knows how to work well with others and offers assistance for the greater good of the company, right? Like I mentioned earlier also, that nowadays people need to work with team, people needs to work with other people and need to do greater good for the company. No longer software engineers are expected to work alone. Obviously, you need someone, which is the fourth trait, which is curiosity. It's a different question than what you would conventionally ask someone. Do you have any hobbies outside work? Nobody, absolutely nobody asks a software engineer this question. I repeat, the question is very different. It's asked, do you have any hobbies outside of work? Now, what is it that you're listening to? You want to try and find out or look for someone who has the hunger of exploration or the eager to learn, right? Software engineers usually are very boring, right? They come to work, code, go back, right? But here you're looking for someone who has that hunger to learn, who's looking to explore new things. And that's the right person to have in your organization. A candidate with a curious bend of mind and willing to ask questions will be more engaged in the office. We have so many complaints that there's a high attrition ratio in the organization, specifically with IT positions. If there is someone in the organization who has a curious bent of mind, who's asking more questions, that kind of an engineer is always going to be engaged in your organization and is less likely to leave the organization. These kind of engineers also bring new ideas, they bring new perspectives, and they bring new strategies to the business. Things that nobody is trying to judge in an interview. But remember, guys, when you want to bring leadership in an organization, it cannot be only from the management cadre. It needs to be from the cadre of technology. It needs to be from the cadre of where it brings expertise in terms of software and IT. Okay, and that's where you need leadership as well, technical leadership, right? And therefore, you need to also judge these parameters in the beginning when you're looking at hiring someone who can perhaps become into your future leadership team. The fifth question I'm looking for is someone who takes ownership. Guys, most software engineers work on projects, and there's a very likely chance that projects go haywire. You don't want someone who's going to be pushing the blame to someone else. You want someone who's taking ownership in their particular role. So, what question do you want to ask them? Discuss one of your projects, the previous projects, that didn't go smoothly. Obviously, they will have one project at least that didn't go smoothly. Explain how did you deal with those challenges to complete the project successfully. So we're not asking for failures. Remember, we're asking for a project that they completed successfully. We want them to tell us how did they deal with those challenges that came up that point of time, and how did they take it to the end successfully. Now, what is it that you're listening for? In this question, it allows you to understand whether that the candidate can take control, right? Many a times the candidate gets lost. You want someone who can take control specifically for a project management position. Software engineers don't really have control when they had 1 or 2 years experience. But nowadays we have project managers or team heads which are at 4 or 5 years of experience as well. And here you're looking for a person who can take control of a situation in case the project goes haywire. Even if they work generally alone, so sometimes some people work alone, it can help you understand the other skills such as time and project management. Through this particular question, you'd be able to also understand if that person has worked in an individual role earlier, as to what is the person's ability to manage time and the ability to manage projects. I mentioned this earlier in this particular video as well, saying that the software engineer's position is a lot about project management, and project management relates to time, right? So this particular question will allow you to judge whether a software engineer can manage time and manage project properly. I repeat, so the few things that we're looking out for in a person who's a software engineer, and these are soft skills, remember, not technical skills. Very few people ask questions like this, but if you're asking the right questions, if you're getting the right answers, you will have a software engineer not only staying in the organization, growing in the organization, and becoming the future leadership. The 5 questions revolve around adaptability, being a team player, the person's ability to be approachable, curiosity, and the person who takes ownership. I hope this helps you. Have a great week ahead. Thank you so much.